Okay, hello and good day to everyone. That is, you're tuning in here at the Sphere Rocket Podcast Network. Once again, I'm going to be the host for today's episode. My name is Dwayne, and right now we are joined by, I guess, someone really special. It's because it's not usual that we got someone outside of the real estate industry, but of course, one solid business overall, I would say. But I guess more information would be given by the man himself. So let's welcome our guest for today, Sean Naugher. Welcome to the show, and how are you doing today?
Doing well, doing well. Appreciate you having me on.
Yes, I appreciate you having being here with us as well. So I guess my first question, so what kind of industry actually is your business?
Yeah, that's an interesting one because I know that it's not typical for your podcast. So we're in the IT services space. So anything from managed IT, managed cybersecurity, and more recently we've launched new business around AI and automation.
So more of the AI and automation kind of stuff. I guess another question that I would have is I think 10 years ago, how different was IT back then to now? Like, in a scale of 1 to 10, what was the biggest difference that made a difference in the industry?
Gosh, I've got enough gray hair to show that I've been in the industry to see several transformations when it comes to this. So, I got started in the IT industry back when people were working off of green screens, the old dumb terminals. And I've seen it change to, the Windows environment, the servers environment, going through the .com boom and seeing the transformation around that. But 10 years ago, it was really more about going to the cloud, moving from on-premise equipment, getting into software as a service. Most of the folks out there probably are using software that's hosted by a provider today, so they're not actually having to install and maintain servers. They may to some degree, but gosh, 10 years ago, that was kind of the predominant model that people had to have infrastructure in place and expertise. You may even had to have an in-house network engineer or server engineer that maintained your Microsoft Exchange server for email. And now, those days are of having to have someone internal that's, a high dollar IT expert. Most people aren't having to go to that expense unless they're, a really large organization anyway.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy? 10 years ago, it's really different. And 5 years ago, it's also really different, especially with AI coming into technology. Like, I've been talking to my younger brother, and I've been telling him, you don't know how lucky you are, how easy getting information it is now. Even, I mean, unfortunately, technology can be used for something not so good as well. Like, maybe
Yeah.
making your research for you, like asking it any questions. I mean, yeah, pretty much the future that we're living in right now. And based on what you told me about business, it's about AI and cybersecurity. Is it like the same kind of technology made into one or two different kinds of businesses, two different kinds of sectors of your business?
Yeah. So, kind of going along with the thought that people move from on-premise servers, when you move into the cloud, people, there's a lot of convenience that's gained from that. You're not having to maintain it internally anymore, but it doesn't eliminate the cybersecurity concern. So that's a component that really in the last 5 years has been kind of the heavy focus for most of the folks in the IT and technology space. And then, as you mentioned, AI, just really in the last 2 years, that has been a huge shift. And we're seeing it's almost that next transformation when it comes to technology. And honestly, I think this is probably the biggest transformation we'll see in our lifetime when it comes to how we're using technology, what it provides for us. And so for us, it's a big enough movement in the technology space that we decided we wanted to invest in starting up another company specifically focused around that the AI technologies and more specifically business process automation that leverages the technology and the AI components to provide those efficient outcomes and cost reductions for most organizations.
Yes, exactly. Cybersecurity, definitely. I think one of the risks of going on cloud, I mean, it also has some risks if you have your own data in your, I don't know, USB drive whatsoever.
Right.
There's lots of things in the internet. Let's say iCloud. There's been some issues where celebrities' files are officially shared to anyone by a hacker. So, can you tell us how secure actually cloud is? Is it really as vulnerable as it was before, or is it more vulnerable because hackers become smarter and or Are we outpacing the hackers in terms of security at the moment?
Unfortunately, no, we're not. It's not that it's more or less secure than it was when you had it on premises. It's just changed the landscape. You know, if you go back to the days when you were hosting your servers and applications internally, in that world, you had to make sure that everything that you used and had access to the public was secure, and you were responsible for that. Now, with the move to the cloud, you shift some of that responsibility, not all of it, but some of that responsibility to your provider. So if you're using Salesforce or HubSpot or any of the other tools that are out there that are cloud based, or even Office 365, you don't have to go through and maintain all of the software updates and the patches and things like that. But you still have to have a secure posture when it comes to how you access those platforms and your policies around that. So, what it has done is changed our focus from you being responsible for the physical security to where now you need to have more security policies. And the I guess the real risk for software as a service platforms as a whole is your much larger footprint for a cyber criminal to go after. Before, when you were hosting your own email server, they kind of had to know who you were, what your IP address was, some type of credential to get in. And now, if you're using Microsoft 365 or Google G Suite, those are the two main platforms. And the criminals know that's probably the biggest footprint to go after. And so, if you're not using multi factor authentication to secure those, some conditional access policies, things like that, you do have a larger cybersecurity risk than probably it was in the old days. So it's a double-edged sword on how you approach it, and you just need to make sure that you've got a comprehensive cybersecurity plan and process to move that forward.
I see. So where does your company comes in? Like, how do you help cybersecurity for users?
So our company, most organizations struggle with technology as a whole, just because it changes so quickly, and unless you're in the technology business, that's not the focus of how you generate revenue. You shouldn't be worried about how do you maintain the technology, how do you keep up with it. And so we really step in and fill that gap to where, you go back to our discussion about how things were 10 years ago. Most organizations then had an IT director on staff. And the problem with that model was that most of the time it was a single person, and they may know the inner workings of the network and the systems really well. But if they leave the organization, if they get sick, whatever, it takes them out of the mix, and now you're vulnerable because you've got all of your keys in one pocket. So where we kind of come in now is we bring a team to the organizations. They outsource their IT and all technology functions to us, to where we maintain that kind of in the same fashion as you do with your software as a service. It's a fraction of what it costs to do that. If you were to try to bring it in house, and we bring more process, more people, and more tools to the space to make sure that you're in a better position to focus on what you do well on a daily basis, which is running your business.
Okay, so instead of one person, they hire an entire team of IT to maintain their tech. But isn't that more costly compared to hiring one person, or are there any pros and cons to that actually makes sense financially?
Typically, what we see is by outsourcing your IT to a firm that has multiple people, it's going to be a fraction of what you would pay if you were to try to hire someone internally, just because the economies of scale. One of the things we've spent the last 15 years doing is developing specific process around all of the technology areas. So in our industry, everyone talks about being proactive. It's a buzzword, and unfortunately, over the years, it's kind of lost most of the meaning, because most of the folks, when they start talking about being proactive, they mean they've got some monitoring software that tells you, hey, your server's offline or your network's down, but the issue's already occurred. There's nothing proactive there. What we look at is, from our version of proactive anyway, is we want to come in and look at what are the risk and liabilities in your organization from a technology perspective that could affect your ability to operate. And we look at where are you at today versus what are the industry best practices, and we try to align you closer to those best practices and give you the data to make better decisions around. So over the course of time, what we'll be able to do is tell you, here are the things that create risk for you, here are the things that are causing problems in your operations when it comes to technology, and if we can solve for those, you experience less downtime, less issues. And when you do have those type of issues, most of the time they're going to be resolved much, much faster. So in terms of scale, you get a larger team with more expertise, but because the process behind it, you can do so much more economically than trying to bring that talent in-house.
Okay, I see. That definitely makes more sense and more security, I guess, since going back to what we've discussed earlier, instead of having one person having control of everything, it's now handled by an entire team, of course, experts as well, as you may say, because it's a team that you provide yourself. And I would like to ask as well, in regards to getting, I guess, clients, because I wouldn't say this is really niche, because every company needs some sort of IT security or IT team. So how was your first years like starting this company? How did you get your first few clients?
Yeah. So this particular company, I started it almost going on 24 years ago. So, those days it was a much different story than it is today. A lot of it in the early days were, it was due to word of mouth and referral type scenarios. So one person knows someone that's looking for IT, and they say, "Hey, we're using Dazzy, and those guys will take great care of you." Nowadays, or for the most part, most organizations are outsourcing their IT services. And so it's a very noisy marketplace when trying to find out who is going to be the best provider for you. So much like anything else, when you're shopping for services, most people do so online and do their own research. So it's changed the way that people go out and shop for these type of services. And one of the things we always caution people about is when you're shopping for IT services, you really don't want to shop for it the same way you would for an AC contractor, for example, for your air conditioning, because all things are not equal when you start looking at IT providers and how they solve your issues. You really want to dig into how do they reduce the amount of issues that we have? What's that process look like? And how does that look over the course of your relationship with them? There should be some specifics that they measure. How many issues do their clients experience per month? And how long does it take to resolve the issues when they do occur? All of those things are metrics that they should be able to speak to and answer. And so those are some of the things that when organizations are shopping, it takes a little more diligence now than it used to when it comes to, especially when it comes to cybersecurity anyway.
I mean, lots of competition for you, definitely.
Yeah.
In terms of prices, quality. So you definitely need to make yourself stand out in terms of like having make sure you guys were the chosen ones for the client. And you provide other companies with team. So how do you get your own team? Like, how do you grow your own team?
And since COVID, that has been a challenge. Not just in our industry, but across all industries. The available workforce, has been shrinking, and so finding good talent is tough, especially if we've launched this new company around AI and automation. That's an even more limited set of folks that are available. So we really have to always have a recruiting process going, whether we're looking to actively fill a role right now or it's something that we're going to be looking for in the next 6 to 12 months. We try to get ahead of it, and because we are a fairly close knit team, culture is another big component for us. So we hire based upon culture. We can train up the skill set, but it is a process that you have to kind of come at it with a plan in mind anyway.
Okay, so in terms of having people, after COVID, the biggest change in industry is the workforce, as you mentioned earlier, because now, when that time came when people can physically go to the office, you know, companies like Zoom and Microsoft Teams went really huge. So now people can work from home, and it became like a bigger idea because instead of just working from home, working from another country, working from a different continent, I'm assuming you've also had your set of people working from outside your country.
Yeah, yeah. And that's been interesting because prior to COVID, we really didn't, we had an office and everyone came to the office. Now, starting with COVID, we started looking at, it doesn't matter where they're working. We expanded out inside the US. We had folks all over the US that we were able to bring on board with us. And just in the last year, we've expanded internationally in terms of staff as well. And so that's what, if you look at COVID and what's happened since then, that's probably one of the good things is it's expanded our views of now we have a global workforce that we can pull from, and the capabilities is not just what's available in my market, but what do we need and where are the skill sets at that we can bring and be a part of that culture that we want to build inside the company as well.
Yeah, I guess that's the silver lining, one of the silver lining that we see during the times of pandemic. And
Yeah.
that being said, have you had your own VA for yourself, or are you only having your assistants within the US?
We actually expanded out. We so in our experience trying to reach outside of the U.S., we started about a year ago and did not have a great experience to begin with. We were not using someone like Sphere Rocket to help us. We were trying to do it on our own, and just didn't have a great experience. Unfortunately, that talent that we brought on only lasted a few months, and so then that's kind of where we said we need some help. That's where Sphere Rocket really filled the gap for us. And since working with you guys, our VA that we brought on, first of all, I'd say the experience with you guys was really nailing down what we were looking for, not just in terms of qualifications and experience, but what were we looking for in an individual that would work well with our team. And that's one of the things I would say is that since we've brought Don on, who is our VA, he gels so well with our team. Being in the tech space, a lot of our team members are very technical, and we operate, exclusively through Microsoft Teams chat and Slack. He fits right in well with us, operates well within our framework, and so it's been a night and day difference between what it was like going out and trying to do that on our own versus working with you guys.
It's quite interesting and how you double down basically on getting another, hiring a VA, because you failed first and then instead you decided to do it again, but spending more because we're gonna go through Sphere Rocket, and yeah, I think it really worked out great for you. So, what was the biggest difference that you can tell compared to you hiring your own VA compared to going through with Sphere Rocket?
A couple areas. One is in the hiring process. Before we were relying on folks that knew someone that we could try to interview, and so it was a very limited process in terms of candidates that we brought in. There was also very limited background screening and testing around what do they enjoy, what are their skill sets, what are their characteristics that would make them a great fit. And so we were limited on just what we saw on paper. So when we came to Sphere Rocket for that aspect, that was just a huge difference for us to be able to say, okay, here's what we're looking for. Here are the not just skill sets, but the personality traits that we like to work with. You guys brought us, a large bucket full of candidates for us to go through initially. We said, okay, we want to come down to, I want to say it was 5 or 7 different candidates that we got to that final interview phase. And having the ability to do the video interview with you guys, and you guys help facilitate that, that was huge for us because I could give feedback in between there and say, I want to ask a little more questions around this based upon what I heard this last time. So big difference in terms of the hiring process, and then ongoing, just the support, you guys guiding us on what we needed to do within each region to know what the compliance aspects are. That's a huge benefit for us.
Yeah, pretty much. I guess a bit of cherry picking because we filtered out everything that would usually take some maybe months work of finding the right candidate. So I guess the best thing that Sphere Rocket sells is not just time and filtering out everything, but the quality of the person,
Right.
because not everyone, especially in VAs, it's hard to trust someone like you just met, especially someone that you will never meet and work with. So pretty
Right.
much having the extra steps in security and quality, it definitely makes sense. So yeah, that's one of the things that we have in Sphere Rocket. And now, Shane, going back to your business, I'm just quite curious. What are your target market here? Are you just focusing more on companies, or do you offer like things to, guess the regular consumers or just small business owners?
Right. Now, when it comes to our traditional IT services with DASI, we focus on a regional area in the Midwest U.S., and most of the time that's that small to medium sized business where they probably got 20 to 250 employees. When it comes to innovative automations, our new company, we're expanding that to where it's pretty much going to be anywhere that people need the services, and it's more geared towards business to business just because our focus is around business process automation. So anything like, paper forms, manual data entry, integrating your applications to where you're sharing data in between those, and then layering AI on top of that. That's really more of a business focus as opposed to a general consumer focus, anyway.
I see. And Another question that I have is in regards to reaching you. Let's say someone's interested to avail your services. What are the requirements and what are the best ways to reach you?
Yeah, for us, we're especially when it comes to the AI and automation side of things. That's one of the areas that I'm very passionate about, and I can spend all day talking. But we love to hear what people are looking for when it comes to automation. As we look at a shrinking available workforce, it's even more important to make sure that when we do have team members, that they're as efficient as they can be, and that's what we really like to hone in on. And so, if you want to have a conversation about what you're doing, what you're looking for around that, we love to set up those conversations. And if nothing else, we just have a general conversation about where is AI going, what are the tools that you could be using, and how do you leverage those for your operation. So, in terms of reaching us, our IT services company is located at dazze.com, and that's DAZZEE.com. If you're more interested in the AI and automations aspect, you can go to innovativeautomations.ai and contact us there. I'm sure probably will have links for my LinkedIn profile. So any of those, you can hit me up. Be happy to have a conversation and dig in deeper into what you're looking for.
Okay, we'll be sure to post your I guess the links to your socials and as you mentioned LinkedIn, those sort of stuff in the description box, so people won't get lost in terms of getting reaching out to you. And last question in regards to your business is you also provide auditing and you do I guess you do some checkups to a company if any company is interested to ask like can we automate this, can we automate that. You're also open to just doing that for them to make sure to know what they're missing or what they can improve.
Absolutely. That's one of the probably if it sparks interest with you, that's where we always start. We've got an accelerator program that you can get in, and we'll come in and diagnose everything that you have internally to identify are there AI capabilities already present in your software. If not, can we bring what's called a robotic process automation solution to the mix? But we help you build that roadmap so that when you go about implementing it, you've got all the right tools and you know what that outcome is going to be.
Okay, so if you guys are interested, please just look into the description box below to get the best ways to contact here with Shane. So before we end this, Shane, we also have this thing called the lightning round. So it's like a fast-paced kind of questions. Like you can do one word, one sentence. It's up to you. So Shane, ready or not, I'll be starting off with the first question. So now, question number one is, what is your favorite business book?
Favorite business book? Gosh, that's a tough one. EOS is what we follow internally. So anything that's EOS related, also Good to Great is I'm sure everyone's top of the list. So
Okay, next is favorite influencer or coach.
favorite influencer or coach. I follow a lot of folks when it comes to the industry. If we go general business, that there's a different conversation there. I definitely Russell Brunson is one that I love from a marketing and sales perspective. Just
Mhm.
looking at the tech side of that, anyway.
Okay, so I guess this next one is related to marketing because what is your favorite lead generation method?
Favorite is probably using some type of sales funnel.
Mhm.
Both Russell Brunson is huge on that. Also, Cole Gordon is another a big influencer that I follow when it comes to those sales funnels.
Okay, what is your biggest goal for 2024?
2024, our biggest goal is getting innovative automations formally moving forward as our next venture and getting interest built up around it.
Okay, next is what is your best personal online purchase?
Wow, best personal online purchase. I bought a motorcycle on Facebook Marketplace. I don't know if that was the smartest
Wow.
thing, but it was my favorite anyway.
I mean, if it's working out, then of course. Is that a
Yeah.
baseball helmet or is that a motorcycle helmet? I'm not
No,
sure.
that's a
Behind you.
football helmet. Behind
Okay,
me,
it's a
that's
football.
Florida State
Okay.
football.
I thought you do motocross or something. That's
No,
what
no,
that
no,
kind of helmet. Okay.
no
Okay. So next question is, what is one word for you to describe Sphere Rocket?
convenience.
Oh, okay. I guess that's short and simple. And my last question for you is, this doesn't need to be fast, but what is your advice to any business owners or just anyone within the industry working and stuff like that?
I go back to where we're building most of our momentum around the AI and automation. This is a technology that's coming, whether you want it to or not, or whether you're ready for it or not. So it's one of those things that, people worry that AI is going to replace jobs, and I don't believe that. I believe that AI, the person that knows how to use AI, may replace the person that doesn't know how to use it. And so that's really where I would say, if you're running a business today or starting a business, make sure that you're looking into what can you leverage out of AI and automation, because if you don't, you're going to be behind the game.
That's really amazing. I would say, it really makes sense. People are scared maybe AI might replace us. So it's the future. I mean, fortunately and
Yep.
unfortunately for a lot of people, you need to embrace it. I remember watching an interview, I think it was with Bill Gates way back, I guess in the early 1990s or something. On a late night show, he was asked, what's the value of internet? You can watch videos, you can send email. And then that guy said, but we have a television for that. We have something for recording. And after maybe 10 years, 20 years, everyone can't live without the internet.
Right.
If you lose internet for like an hour, kids or adult, they go crazy. Like, hey, you're
Right.
gonna be going crazy on the internet on their ISP. And pretty much I think that's the same trend that's going on with the AI. So you either embrace it or unfortunately get left in the dust in the industry. So
And the big difference is, with the internet, that took us 20 years to get to this point where we are today, where it's just, a necessity. AI, I think, is going to be much, much quicker than that. Probably in the next 3 to 5 years, it's going to become that same level.
Definitely, amazing. Yeah, I expect a lot more better things to come in AI. I guess just in general media, I don't know which one is real right now. Like AI is enhancing photos, generating images, videos that are getting harder and harder to discern, and also chatbots. Before it's so easy to tell if you're talking with a bot or not. Right now, I'm questioning, wait, is this a real person I'm talking to? So
Yep.
that's the kind of advances that we're seeing right now. And as you mentioned, just 2 years, the last 2 years, AI has grown on to like that's that much of a time. So
Yep.
Shane, thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge, your business, and your advice as well. So be sure to contact him if you're interested in any of his services that we've talked about earlier on. I guess the website itself would be the best avenue to learn more about a company and get in touch with him. So Shane, before we end this, do you have anyone you wanted to shout out? Anything that you wanted to promote? Feel free to do so now.
Just appreciate the partnership with Sphere Rocket and what you guys have allowed us to do in terms of scaling. And now we're no longer focused on just our regional market to bring in talent. So if you're on the fence of whether to work with Sphere Rocket, I wholeheartedly endorse the experience and what you guys have brought to the table.
Thank you so much. And I guess that is the end of our podcast for today. So thank you everyone for tuning in and watching another episode here at the Sphere Rocket Podcast Network. And we'll hopefully see you again in the next one. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks.
Feeling overwhelmed by your business tasks? Well, it's time to step up your game. Visit www.spherocketva.com and get a virtual assistant from us at Sphere Rocket VA. Streamline your business operations and focus on what really matters.